Akira's shadow magic spears race across the ground, stabbing into the Minotaur's legs and arms while the creature is still staggering from Saren's lightning strike. The beast roars in rage, muscles bulging as it struggles against the binding spikes of darkness, but Akira has already completed his spell. The Minotaur finally snaps free from the last traces of lightning and locks onto Akira, charging at him with murderous intent, its massive axe raised high. It has no idea that the true danger is already under its feet. As the Minotaur swings its heavy axe toward him, Akira doesn't dodge. At the last second, more jagged spikes of pure shadow burst from the ground, piercing straight through its arm. The axe veers off course, slamming uselessly into the stone floor. Akira follows up without hesitation, sending even more spikes into the Minotaur's massive torso, skewering its body from multiple angles. Once he's sure the creature is properly impaled and can't rip itself free in one burst of strength, he clenches his fist. A black void opens beneath the Minotaur's hooves like a hungry mouth, an abyss formed entirely of shadow. Slowly, then all at once, the monster's huge frame is dragged downward. The Minotaur thrashes and roars, muscles straining, but the dark spears keep tearing deeper into its flesh as they pull it into the abyss. In a final brutal twist, the merging shadows wrench its head clean off just before its entire body is swallowed by the darkness and disappears. Silence follows. Everyone present simply stares. The students, Gil, and even Saren are stunned that Akira, who had always stayed in the background, just took down a monster that shouldn't even exist on that floor. Before anyone can cheer, the situation turns terrifying. The shadow spikes refuse to vanish. Instead, they writhe like living tentacles, digging deeper into the ground as if searching for their next prey. The abyss under the Minotaur's body widens, stretching into cracks all around them. Akira feels his heart pound faster. His power is raging out of control. He tries to retract the magic, willing the shadows to retreat, but the more he focuses, the more the darkness trembles like a beast straining at its leash. The students start to panic, screaming his name and backing away from him, terrified that the same magic might swallow them next. Saren steps in immediately. "Akira, look at me," he shouts, his voice calm but firm. Akira's breathing grows uneven, but he forces his eyes toward the commander. "Your magic is responding to your fear," Saren says. "Slow your breathing, focus. You're not its servant, you're its master." Akira grits his teeth, following Saren's instructions. He inhales deeply, then exhales, trying to tune out the screams and the shaking ground. "Good. Now don't force it back," Saren continues. "Guide it. You summoned it. Call it home." Akira closes his eyes and visualizes the shadows flowing back into him like smoke returning to its source. Little by little, the spears stop thrashing, the cracks in the floor stop spreading, the abyss shrinks. Finally, the last spike dissolves into the ground and vanishes. Akira collapses to one knee, drenched in sweat and shaking, but still alive. He lets out a breath of relief. If Saren hadn't stepped in, the spell might have devoured him along with everything nearby. Saren walks over, places a hand on his shoulder, and says with a small smile, "You did well. You went far beyond what I expected today." After they return from the dungeon, the students rest as healers check them over. Saren finds Akira later and thanks him sincerely. "You saved everyone back there," the commander says. Akira shakes his head. "I don't deserve the praise. If you hadn't used your divine skill, I couldn't have even scratched that thing, and I couldn't control my magic at all during training. I just got lucky this time." Saren folds his arms, studying him. "Shadow magic, huh? It's the first time I've heard of it being classified as an extra skill. No wonder it's so unstable. Right now, you can barely handle it." He warns Akira seriously. "Next time you use that power, think carefully. Lose control again, and it might not spare you." Then, as if he'd been waiting for the right moment, Saren brings out a long cloth-wrapped object and places it before Akira. "As a reward and as insurance, I want you to take this." Akira unwraps it and finds a sleek samurai sword, its blade slightly curved, its craftsmanship far beyond anything he's seen in this world. "This sword was forged by the very first hero summoned to this kingdom," Saren explains. "It's been kept in the royal treasury ever since." Akira's eyes widen. "If it's that important, shouldn't you give it to Sadto? He's the hero now." Saren lets out a dry laugh. "Sadto already has the holy sword, and more importantly, I stole this one." Akira blinks. "If I gave it to your beloved hero, the king would realize something's missing in no time and have me arrested," Saren says casually. "Better it stays with someone who lives in the shadows." Akira can't help but smile. "In that case, I'll accept it gladly." He notices markings near the hilt and reads them out loud. "Yato no Kami." Below that, an old inscription from the first hero himself. "May this blade guide my successor in times of crisis." Akira traces the letters with his thumb. "I think I'd like to meet that guy someday," he murmurs. Thinking of heroes brings something else to mind. The curse on Sadto. No matter how many times the royal enchanters tried, they couldn't break it. The more Akira thinks about it, the more suspicious it feels. Saren has a disturbing theory. He suspects that the curse placed on Sadto is the work of the princess herself, using forbidden dark rituals to slowly turn the so-called hero into her puppet, and by extension, a weapon under the king's control. Following that lead, Akira sneaks into the princess's chamber that night and finds her in the middle of a ritual, holding a glowing magic crystal over a complex magic circle. Dark energy pulses from it, directly linked to Sadto. Akira doesn't hesitate. He rushes forward and slashes through the crystal with his new sword, shattering it in an instant. The ritual collapses, the magic circle breaks, and the room plunges into silence. The princess whirls around, furious. How dare you barge into a lady's room in the middle of the night? Have you no shame? Akira simply points his sword at her. A woman who curses others like this isn't a lady, she's a witch. He asks through clenched teeth, why are you doing this? Why are you turning him into a tool? With this power, everything will be for father's sake, she replies emptily. Her eyes are vacant, her tone flat, as if the words aren't even her own. Akira realizes she isn't speaking as herself anymore. Something or someone has hollowed her out and is using her like a doll. He leaves, taking the shattered crystal with him. The princess, however, still has more crystals hidden away and quietly plans to use them on the rest of the students. Later, Akira brings the broken crystal to Saren's room and sets it on the table. You were right, he says. The princess was cursing Sadto herself. Saren sighs, so she still hasn't given up on those twisted rituals. He asks if Akira showed her his real face. Yeah, Akira replies, I wanted to talk to her properly, but she's not exactly good at conversation anymore. Saren's expression turns serious. She's nothing more than a puppet now, just another tool for the king. Listen carefully. Do not sleep inside the palace tonight. Akira narrows his eyes. Why? The princess can curse anyone she has proper information on. Name, class, status. Saren explains. You're the one exception. You never revealed your status to her. She can't curse what she can't see. That means she'll choose the simpler option and try to have you killed instead. He tells Akira to stay far away from the palace until things calm down. Akira raises an eyebrow. You're not mad that I revealed my face to her? Saren smiles faintly. You're a teenager thrown into a nightmare. It's normal to make reckless choices. It's our job as adults to deal with the mess afterward. The next morning, Akira wakes up to shouts echoing from the direction of the palace. When he rushes there, he finds a huge crowd gathered in the hall. Sadto stands near the front, his curse finally gone. Akira pushes through the people and demands to know what happened. Saren is dead, Sadto says grimly. Akira's world stops. He forces his way forward until he sees it himself. Saren's lifeless body lying on the floor, a dagger buried in his chest. Akira feels the air leave his lungs. The only person he trusted in this world is gone. Before he can process his grief, his classmates surround him. Their eyes are cold and accusing. Drop the act, Akira. One of them says, we know it was you. They point at the dagger stuck in Saren's chest. This is your weapon, isn't it? Akira protests. My dagger broke when I fought the Minotaur. You all saw it shatter, but no one is listening. They murmur that he's always been suspicious, that he keeps secrets, that he hides from everyone. The curse and brainwashing twist their thoughts, pushing all blame toward him. Akira realizes bitterly that this is exactly what the king wanted. Only Sadto steps forward to defend him. We can't just accuse him like this. We need to investigate properly. The king silences him with a stern glare. I have heard enough, the king declares. Akira will be executed for murdering our beloved commander. He orders the knights to seize him. Before they can reach him, Akira activates his concealment. His presence fades and he slips out of the hall like a shadow. As the king sends search teams across the palace, Akira goes straight to Gil. The vice commander doesn't waste time. He tells Akira that Saren was killed by a royal assassination unit following direct orders from the king. They're coming for you too, Gil says, but Saren knew this might happen. He prepared supplies for you ahead of time. He explains that Saren left equipment and provisions in his room, expecting Akira would need to flee. Gil urges him to take everything and disappear before the assassins corner him. Akira thanks him and runs to Saren's quarters, grabbing the travel gear and weapons in a hurry. In his rush, he accidentally leaves behind a small pouch. That night, in the throne room, the king discusses events with the princess. Saren fell much easier than I expected, the king says. Now, there's no one left to stand in our way. The princess reports that the brainwashing of all the students, except for the hero, is complete. All they need now is a justification, a spark to ignite a war against neighboring kingdoms. The king smiles darkly and orders her to dispatch assassins after Akira. He wants the boy dead before he grows powerful enough to become a real threat. Meanwhile, Akira hides in the dungeon. Saren once told him that if he ever needed to vanish, the dungeon would be the safest place. People fear it too much to search deeply, and the monsters themselves serve as a brutal barrier. The main problem is the lack of clean water, but it's also the best environment to level up quickly and sharpen his skills. Saren had warned him, high-level monsters have senses so keen that concealed presence alone won't fool them. To become truly invisible, Akira will need to erase his scent, suppress his body heat, and blend his mana into the environment, so he dives deeper. He battles flamehounds that explode in bursts of fire when they die, dodging their last fiery breath and cutting them down anyway. He recalls Saren's words about how reaching level 100 unlocks a unique special skill that dramatically boosts one's strength. Defeating dungeon bosses is the fastest way to gain experience, but also the riskiest. Once you challenge a boss, retreat is no longer an option. Akira decides he doesn't care. If he's going to survive in this world and one day take revenge, he needs overwhelming power. After defeating wave after wave of flamehounds, he enters a boss chamber where a massive demon lion awaits him. The creature attacks immediately with terrifying speed, its claws tearing through stone. Akira dodges its lunges, but fails to notice the most dangerous part. Its tail is actually a snake, hissing with venom. The tail lashes out, spitting poison. Akira is caught off guard and narrowly avoids a lethal hit, but the lion's claw still slams into him, sending him flying and leaving a deep wound. He crashes hard and realizes he's lucky to still be breathing, but he refuses to give up. As the lion charges again, Akira decides to stop holding back and calls upon his shadow magic. Dark spikes shoot out from the floor and walls, impaling the monster, tearing through its limbs and torso, shredding it into pieces. The boss lets out a final roar before collapsing. Once again, the power spirals out of control. Akira's consciousness fades and he blacks out. In the darkness, a male voice echoes inside him. The master has taken too much damage, activating emergency protocol. Shadow magic, healing mode. The shadow surrounding his body creeps closer, seeping into his wounds. It uses the mana stored inside the spell to repair his injuries from the inside out. Back at the palace, Soldo argues with his classmates. He insists they should set out immediately to defeat the Demon Lord, honoring Saren's wish to protect the world. Most of them refuse, saying it's too soon after the commander's death. The curse still fogs their minds, making them apathetic and obedient. Soldo declares that he'll go alone if he has to. To his surprise, a handful of students step forward, choosing to accompany him. He stares at them, confused. Why? You were all cursed, but the enchanter calmly explains that she's learned to feel the difference between cursed and normal people, and everyone here has already been freed. A tall swordsman, Asahi, claims he vaguely remembers wandering into a strange room and cutting apart some crystals with a samurai sword he somehow found. He can't recall all the details, but after that, certain students started waking up from the curse. Unbeknownst to most of them, this was thanks to Gil. His skill suggestion is powerful enough to override even a curse, so long as the action he implants is simple. He had guided Asahi into destroying the crystals as Saren's last order. Now Gil can only wish them luck as they leave the castle. Asahi tells the others that their top priority is to find Akira. He's the only one who knew what was really happening while we were all under control, he says. He remembers a moment from their old world, seeing Akira working a part-time job at a railway crossing. Akira had begged him not to tell anyone, not their classmates, and especially not his little sister. He didn't want them to worry or pity him. Asahi had agreed without hesitation. Later, they found out their younger sisters were actually close friends, which gave them a strange, quiet bond of their own. Deep in the dungeon, Akira wakes up from a dream of that memory. He stares at the rocky ceiling above him and wonders if Asahi is still alive. He notices something feels off, in a good way. His body is lighter, his injuries are gone, and his fatigue has vanished. When he opens his status window, he sees that his stats have risen sharply and his HP bar is full. On top of that, his shadow magic skill has leveled up significantly, even though he only used it once in that fight. He doesn't understand how that's possible, but there's no time to sit and analyze it, so he keeps going deeper. Eventually, he reaches the 75th floor of the dungeon. The moment he steps in, a slime lunges at him out of nowhere. Akira quickly slashes through it, and to his shock, a beautiful elf girl tumbles out of the monster's dissolving body. Completely confused, Akira decides to test a skill he's never used before, World Eye. The moment he activates it, a torrent of information slams into his brain. Details about the dungeon, monsters, her status, the very structure of the world. The flood of knowledge is so intense that his stomach churns and he nearly vomits. He cancels the skill just in time, breathing hard. The elf girl slowly wakes up. He learns that her name is Amelia. Akira asks if she's alright. She says she feels fine, but he doesn't buy it. He saw her status moments earlier. Her HP had dropped to barely 2%. He also knows from that glimpse that she possesses World Eye as well, and that she has already used it on him, learning more about him than she's letting on. When she casually calls him by his name and asks where they are, Akira confirms it. She really did peek at his status. This is a dungeon, he tells her. I'm here to level up. Then he frowns and lectures her lightly. By the way, reading someone else's status without permission is incredibly rude. Before she can reply properly, her body sways and she collapses into his arms with a fever. Akira sighs and carries her upward, stopping at the 69th floor, the nearest level he knows that has a clean water source. He sets her down near a small underground spring. When she wakes again in a panic, he calmly tells her to drink some water and rehydrate. He prepares simple porridge and hands it to her, insisting she eat. Amelia looks at him in surprise and asks why he carried her all the way from the 75th floor to the 69th. This was the closest floor with safe water, he replies. You needed to stabilize first. He tells her to rest and regain her strength. Grateful, Amelia thanks him and reveals that she's actually a princess. Akira just blinks and shrugs. Cool, eat your porridge. Once she's fully recovered, she refuses to leave his side. She decides to travel with him as he pushes down to the 80th floor. There, she uses her gravity magic to pin monsters to the ground, making it easier for Akira to finish them. He, however, is not thrilled about a princess following him through hell. He tells her it's too dangerous and that she should turn back. Amelia just smiles confidently and says she's heading in the same direction anyway, and that she's strong enough to take care of herself. With no better option, Akira reluctantly accepts her as his temporary partner. Soon, they step into another boss chamber where a massive dragon awaits them, its scales shimmering with deadly blue light. The dragon opens its mouth and breathes a huge wave of blue flames at them. They split and dodge to opposite sides of the room, barely escaping the scorching blast. Akira suppresses his presence and vanishes from sight while Amelia presses the dragon down with crushing gravity magic, trying to pin it to the floor to give Akira an opening. Akira dashes in, invisible, but the dragon suddenly swings its head and smashes him away with a well-timed strike. Amelia yells, "It's sensing you through your mana. You need to blend your mana with the dungeon's flow." Akira hasn't mastered that level of control yet. He decides to fight the way he always has. He activates shadow magic again. A single dark spike launches toward the dragon's face. The beast twists so the spike only scrapes its cheek, but that's enough to throw off its aim. In that instant, Akira rushes in and drives his sword straight into the dragon's eye. The monster roars in agony and crashes to the ground. Amelia watches, impressed and slightly horrified by how recklessly he fights. She opens her mouth to ask about his powers, but the words die in her throat as the dragon's body starts to glow. Its massive form begins to shrink and warp, scales folding and light bending. Right before their eyes, the terrifying dragon transforms into a gigantic blue cat, its fur shining like polished sapphire. Akira and Amelia just stare, completely unable to understand what they're looking at. Amelia can't believe what she's seeing. She immediately activates her World Eye, and in an instant, the truth clicks into place. The dragon they fought isn't a real dragon at all. It's a shapeshifter, a monster that disguises itself, which is how it turned into the dragon form earlier. Now that it's reverted to its original body, the black cat form makes sense. A genuine dragon would have been far tougher, and they never would have beaten it that easily. Akira is impressed by how smoothly and confidently Amelia uses World Eye. She reads the creature's information like it's nothing, while he can barely keep his head together when he tries. She asks him why he isn't using his own version of the skill. Akira remembers the last time he activated World Eye, how his mind felt like it was going to crack open from the overload of information, and he decided it was probably because his level was still too low to handle it properly. Amelia, however, shakes her head and gives him a different explanation. She thinks he's subconsciously rejecting the skill, resisting it out of fear, and that's why he's struggling to control it. Before Akira can respond, the black cat's eyes snap open. He casually sits up and starts talking as if this is the most normal thing in the world. He grumbles that losing to a human and an elf is beyond embarrassing, especially when he took on the form of a dragon just for fun. Akira freezes. A talking boss monster cat is not something he was prepared for. The cat notices the shocked look on his face and gets offended. He tells Akira not to lump him together with the brainless low-level monsters that only act on instinct. He declares that he is a superior being, an intelligent creature personally created by the Demon Lord himself. Akira replies that it doesn't really change anything. After the last blow, the cat is too injured to fight, and if Akira attacks again, he won't be able to resist. The black cat snorts. He says he couldn't care less if he dies here, but before that happens, he has a message to deliver. He stands up, dark mana leaking from his body, and announces that the Demon Lord is waiting for Akira in his fortress, located deep within the demon continent of Volcano. That immediately makes Akira suspicious. How does the Demon Lord even know about me? He asks. And why is he waiting for me specifically? The cat simply says that the Demon Lord exists on a level far beyond his understanding, so he can't explain the details. His job is only to pass along the summons. With that, he lies down again and tells Akira to hurry up and kill him. Akira refuses. The black cat rolls his eyes and tells him to quit acting like some noble hero. Humans see monsters and demons as natural enemies, so it's totally normal to cut him down. He insists Akira is just delaying the obvious, but Akira shakes his head. For him, the real enemy isn't the Demon Lord or monsters in general. It's the king who betrayed and tried to kill him. He doesn't blindly accept that all demons are his foes just because humans say so. Amelia then points out a very practical problem. The boss room door won't open unless one of two things happens. Either they kill the boss or the boss kills them. The black cat agrees, asking if Akira plans to just stay here and starve to death for the sake of his principles. Akira quietly asks himself why he's so against killing this particular monster. And his own answer is simple but shocking. He tells them that he's a cat person. Unlike the other monsters they've fought, this one can talk, argue, and think. That makes it very hard for him to see the black cat as just another enemy. He's convinced there has to be some loophole that lets them leave the boss room alive without killing the cat. Amelia thinks back carefully and remembers something. There is another method. If Akira forms a pact with the black cat and accepts him as his familiar, the system will stop recognizing him as a boss monster, and the room will register the boss as defeated. That should open the door. The cat bursts out laughing at the idea. He says that forming a familiar pact is not some simple trick. It's a high-level ritual, something only skilled magic users with precise mana control can pull off. As far as he's concerned, Akira has no chance of succeeding. Amelia disagrees. She reveals that Akira has already surpassed the bare minimum required to perform the ritual. She reminds the cat that earlier, during their fight, Akira detached his mana from his own body to confuse him, a feat that according to legends, only the first hero ever managed aside from him. She's confident that Akira can attempt the ritual, but she can't guarantee he'll survive it. Akira asks what happens if he fails. The black cat answers bluntly, if the ritual goes wrong, one of them will die. In the worst case, both their lives could be forfeit. Akira doesn't even flinch. He says he's willing to take that risk. The cat is confused. He can't understand why a human would risk his life for a monster. Still, he tells Akira to do whatever he wants. He doesn't care if he lives or dies. That attitude finally irritates Akira. He gets angry that the cat treats his own life as worthless. The black cat explains that continuing to exist doesn't bring him any joy. Killing and being used as a tool for others has worn him down. Akira decides he'll deal with that mindset later and focus on the ritual first. He asks Amelia how to start. She explains that the first step is to give the cat a new name. Akira looks at the black cat's glossy fur and decides to name him Night because his deep black coat reminds him of the night sky. The cat doesn't react much to the name, but he doesn't reject it either. Akira then moves to the next step, pouring his mana into Night's paw. Amelia warns him one last time. Once he starts channeling mana, there's no turning back. If he fails to control Night's mana and synchronize with it, the ritual will backfire and he may lose his life. Akira nods, fully confident that he'll make it work. He places his hand on Night's paw and starts pouring mana into him. Instantly, a massive oppressive force crashes into his mind like a tidal wave. He feels like he's being dragged underwater. This overwhelming presence is what resides inside Night's soul. Suddenly, the world around Akira distorts. He finds himself falling from the sky into a burning city. Buildings are engulfed in flames, screams echo in the distance, and the streets are littered with destruction. Horrified, Akira looks around and sees Knight, enormous and feral, rampaging through the city, slaughtering anyone who tries to flee. Akira rushes toward him, trying to stop him, but Knight fires a blast of dark mana straight at him, sending him crashing backward and inflicting brutal damage. As Akira struggles to stand, Knight tells him coldly that if he wants to survive and escape this place, he needs to stop hesitating and kill him. Akira still can't bring himself to attack the cat. Knight snarls and charges again, slashing him with his claws. Every hit he takes in this dreamlike landscape is mirrored on his real body lying in the boss room. Blood loss, pain, and exhaustion all begin to pile up. Eventually, Akira realizes that if he keeps standing there and doing nothing, he really will die. He forces himself to fight back. He throws his dagger with precise aim, but Knight easily deflects it and begins gathering an enormous amount of dark power, clearly preparing a finishing blow to end the battle in one strike. Akira charges straight toward him, but instead of attacking, Akira does something completely unexpected. He lets Knight's claws pierce through his body. Knight freezes, stunned. "What the hell are you trying to do?" he demands. Akira gasps in pain, but still manages to speak. He says he doesn't want to kill Knight, and deep down he knows Knight doesn't truly want to keep killing people either. Knight insists that he's a monster. No matter how smart he is, his instincts constantly urge him to tear apart anything in his path. That's just how he was made. Akira can see how exhausted Knight is, not just physically, but emotionally. He's tired of being a weapon of destruction. Akira grabs onto Knight's claws and tells him that he doesn't have to fight those instincts alone anymore. From now on, Akira will shoulder that burden with him. He'll watch over Knight and make sure he never has to go through this nightmare again. Slowly, the burning city around them begins to fade. The flames die down, the screams vanish, and as Knight starts to trust Akira, his massive, monstrous form shrinks. He turns into a normal-sized black cat and curls up calmly in Akira's arms. A warm sunrise appears in the sky of that vanishing dream world, reflecting the peace that Knight finally feels. Then everything goes white. Akira opens his eyes in the real world, back in the boss room. His body aches, but he's alive. He immediately reaches out and touches Knight. A golden symbol begins to glow on the back of Akira's hand, and the red mark on Knight's forehead transforms into a matching golden crest. Amelia explains that this is proof that the pact has succeeded. Their souls are now linked. Akira and Knight are officially bound as master and familiar. Knight wakes up, stretches, and calmly remarks that now he's genuinely curious to see how far Akira will go. He accepts Akira as his master and swears to serve him with his life. Amelia introduces herself, and Knight respectfully acknowledges her as his master's companion, promising to treat her with proper respect as well. At that moment, a pale magic circle lights up on the floor. The system has registered the boss as cleared. Akira, however, looks distracted, lost in his thoughts. He says he wants to move on to the next floor right away. Knight points out that he's wounded and that there's no need to rush. The boss room door will stay open until they use it. He suggests resting and recovering first. Amelia agrees and proposes that they use this break to get to know each other better. Knight instantly agrees, and Akira can't help but be a little surprised at how quickly the cat's personality shifted from gloomy and resigned to chatty and curious. Meanwhile, far away, Sadto and his group arrive in a country founded by a hero who was summoned from Earth long ago. The moment they see the streets, buildings, and clothes of the people, they are stunned. This place looks almost exactly like historic Japan. Nostalgia washes over them. For the first time in a while, they relax slightly and sit down to talk about what to do next. Sadto says their first concern is money. At their current spending rate, they'll run out of funds within a month and end up broke and homeless. One of the guys suggests becoming adventurers. That way they can fight monsters, earn rewards, and gain experience. Sadto agrees that it's the most practical job for them right now. Next, he turns to the topic of information. He says they need to find someone who knows the history and structure of this world, and also hunt for books that contain important information about magic, politics, and the demon continent. Another boy sighs and says he really hopes there's a book that explains how to get back to Earth. Sadto, however, believes their best chance of returning home is to defeat the Demon Lord. He thinks only the king and princess know the method to send them back. Even though those two are twisted and manipulative, he's convinced that if they defeat the Demon Lord for them, they'll have enough leverage to demand answers. He declares that once they have enough money and information, their goal will be to head straight for the Demon Continent. Asahi immediately objects. He thinks they should reunite with Akira before heading into such a dangerous territory. His instincts are telling him that Akira is growing far stronger and much faster than any of them, and they'll absolutely need his power in their group. Some party members agree with Asahi, others still see Akira as the suspected killer of Commander Saren and don't trust him. An argument breaks out. Before it escalates, the girls step in and calm everyone down. They remind the others that Sato is their leader and his decision will be final. Sato listens carefully. He admits that he agrees with Asahi. He also thinks Akira is already stronger than them, but he doubts Akira would want to team up. He explains that Akira doesn't like getting involved with others and barely interacts with people. In fact, despite being classmates since kindergarten, Akira still doesn't seem to remember him properly. Everyone is stunned to hear that. Even Asahi acknowledges that Akira isn't exactly a team player. Sato then mentions an important detail from the legends. Only the holy sword wielded by the chosen hero can bring down the Demon Lord. That means no matter how strong Akira becomes, Sato still has a unique role he must fulfill. He concludes that even if they manage to find Akira, he won't agree to cooperate with them if they're too weak and useless. So Sato decides on a compromise. They will stay in this country and train as hard as they can to raise their strength. While they do that, they will wait for Akira to eventually reach this place, and by the time he does, they will be strong enough to stand beside him. Back in the dungeon, Amelia shares her story with Akira and Knight. She explains that she was driven out of her own homeland by her older sister. Her sister's forces pursued her relentlessly, intent on killing her. Cornered at the edge of a cliff, Amelia used her gravity magic to hurl herself off into the river below, trusting the current to carry her away to safety. It worked. She survived the fall, but she was badly injured and exhausted. That's when a black slime appeared and swallowed her whole, taking advantage of her weakened state. The next thing she remembers is waking up in the dungeon, with Akira standing over her after cutting her free. Akira feels bad for her after hearing this. Knight, however, finds a few holes in the story. He points out that slimes don't normally eat people, and even if one had swallowed her, she should have been dissolved and digested by the time Akira reached her. Amelia admits that she doesn't understand it either, but she's still grateful. If the slime hadn't brought her here, she never would have met Akira. Akira suggests that she should go back one day and try to fix things with her sister. Amelia shakes her head. She feels she isn't strong enough to face her again and has already given up on the idea of reconciliation. Akira insists that things can still work out somehow. They're family, and family bonds don't break that easily. He mentions that he has a little sister too. She's cheeky and teases him all the time, but he still cares deeply for her. Amelia and Knight ask if he wants to go back to his original world to reunite with his family. Akira answers without hesitation that yes, he definitely wants to see them again. But before that, he has something else he must do. He starts talking about Saren, the man who taught him how to survive in this world, the one who stood by his side when no one else did. As he remembers Saren's death, fury rises inside him. He swears that he will kill the king and the princess who orchestrated Saren's assassination. His murderous intent leaks out like a storm. The sheer pressure of his killing intent makes Amelia and Knight shiver. Amelia calls out his name in fear, snapping him out of it. Once he calms down, both Amelia and Knight tell him that they knew about Saren even before meeting Akira. Saren was famous in many kingdoms as an exceptional knight commander. Akira realizes the tension is getting too heavy, so he decides to lighten the mood. He takes out a glove and begins waving it around. Knight's cat instincts immediately kick in, and he starts pouncing after it, batting at the glove with his paws. Akira is relieved that the same trick he used to entertain stray cats back home works on a demon-made monster cat too. Amelia laughs and says she wants to try playing with Knight as well. Before long, both Akira and Amelia are happily cuddling and petting Knight, enjoying how incredibly soft and fluffy his fur is. Knight eventually huffs and tells Akira to take things a bit more seriously. Their souls are linked now. If one of them dies, the other will also perish. Akira says he's fully aware of that, but he's still happy. Out of all possible familiars, he ended up with a cat, and that alone makes him feel lucky. Amelia pouts and admits she's jealous. She loves cats too. After they finish messing around, they decide it's time to leave the dungeon. Akira asks Knight where the pale teleportation magic circle will take them. Knight shrugs and says he has no idea. Only a small number of demons still remember the ancient art of creating magic circles. Akira decides that once he reaches the demon continent, he'll track down those demons and make them work for him. Suddenly, Amelia remembers an old tale about pale blue magic circles. Supposedly, they transport people to the place they desire most in their hearts. If multiple people enter, the circle responds only to the wishes of one person. Akira realizes that could be a problem if their desires conflict. Amelia smiles and tells him not to worry. She says she'll go wherever he goes, as long as she's with him. Akira doesn't think too deeply about her words. He steps into the magic circle, briefly wondering if it might send him back to his family, but he pushes that thought aside. His revenge has to come first. The circle activates, glowing brighter and brighter until the world dissolves around them. When the light fades, they find themselves in a quiet forest. In the distance, towering above the treetops, they see an enormous tree of impossible size. Amelia goes pale. Knight identifies it immediately as the World Tree. That means they've arrived in the Forest of El. Amelia is stunned that the teleportation circle brought them here of all places. Akira, on the other hand, thinks it might actually be a good place to gather information and grow stronger. Before they can move, an arrow suddenly shoots toward Amelia from one of the trees. Akira reacts instantly, pulling her out of the arrow's path. Then he dashes forward, deflects the next arrow with his dagger, and reaches the hidden archer in a flash. He pins the elf to the ground. Amelia recognizes him as Liam. Liam glares at her and says he never expected to run into the traitor while investigating the strange light. He tells Amelia to run if she still values her life. Akira knocks him out cold. He doesn't care about Liam's insults or speeches. However, he realizes they're already too late. The surrounding forest is now full of elves aiming their weapons at them. At their head stands Kilika, Amelia's older sister. Kilika looks down at Amelia and coldly informs her that by returning to their homeland of her own will, she has chosen death. Amelia remembers the days when everything was still peaceful, before betrayal, exile, and assassination attempts, when she was still the cherished princess of the elves. Akira and Amelia finally prepared to leave the Elf Kingdom, and almost the entire settlement gathered to see them off. The atmosphere at the gates was warm rather than tense this time. Amelia and Kilika had mended their relationship, and although they still had things to work through, there was a visible softness between the two sisters now. Liam and Akira also exchanged a brief man-to-man understanding. They both told each other to take care of their girl, half joking, half serious. The Elven King stepped forward and addressed Akira directly. He said that he could not, in good conscience, simply let his daughter travel without protection. Reports of frequent kidnappings near the border had been piling up, so he declared that a detachment of soldiers would accompany them, at least until they crossed into the neighboring territory. Amelia immediately clung to Akira's arm, insisting that he was more than strong enough to protect her on his own. The king, however, did not seem fully convinced. His worry as a father overrode his trust in Akira's abilities. Kilika then volunteered to escort them herself in his place, unable to sit still while her sister left again. Liam quickly offered to go as well, and the rest of the soldiers also began requesting to join the escort. Akira, however, didn't want to travel with a full squad that might slow him down or become a liability if something serious happened. He politely but firmly refused the extra help. In the end, a small escort unit accompanied their carriage out of the elf lands, maintaining a vigilant watch on the surroundings as they rolled toward the border. During the ride, Akira glanced at Knight, who had been unusually quiet ever since they left the capital. He asked him why he had been so silent in front of the Elven King. Knight answered calmly that most people disliked monsters on sight, especially intelligent ones, and he didn't want to cause Akira any unnecessary trouble by speaking out of turn. Akira then asked the obvious question, wasn't Knight afraid that acting too submissive would get him into trouble with the Demon Lord later? Knight replied that his senses were still partially linked to the Demon Lord. Through that connection, the Demon Lord could see and hear what Knight experienced. However, that link didn't grant the Demon Lord any direct control over Knight's will or loyalty. Knight declared firmly that he had no intention of betraying Akira, no matter what. Akira pressed further, asking what Knight would do if a situation arose where he had to fight against the Demon Lord himself. Knight hesitated and admitted he didn't have an answer yet. For now, he preferred not to think too far ahead. He said the Demon Lord's only clear request so far was to meet Akira, and Amelia even suggested that maybe the Demon Lord wanted to become allies with him instead of enemies. Knight actually agreed with that possibility, adding that Akira had been incredibly impressive during their recent battles. He pointed out that no one else could use shadow magic the way Akira did. He had wrapped his entire body in darkness and moved as if it were second nature. Akira brushed off the praise, insisting it wasn't as amazing as they were making it sound. Before he could say more, his danger detection skill suddenly flared like an alarm. Akira instantly told the soldiers to bring the carriage to a stop. He stepped down and walked ahead to find a group of kidnappers blocking the road. They had a young girl tied up as a hostage, and they threatened to kill her if Akira or the soldiers tried anything. One of the bandits stepped forward, tossing them ropes and ordering them to tie each other up and surrender quietly. When one of the thugs got a closer look at Amelia's face and pointed ears, he realized she was an elf. And not just any elf, but the princess of the Forest of Elves. His eyes lit up with greed as he imagined how thrilled their boss would be to receive her as an offering. While the bandits were distracted, gloating and whispering among themselves, Akira quietly activated his presence concealment skill. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from their perception. Before any of the kidnappers realized what was happening, they were all knocked out cold on the roadside. When Akira allowed his presence to return to normal, the bandits were already sprawled unconscious in the dirt. He instructed the soldiers to tie them up properly. Amelia freed the hostage girl and calmed her down, while Akira began interrogating the bandits to find out who they worked for. They all mentioned a man named Graham, and one of the escort soldiers explained that Graham was a powerful noble from Urok, the largest beast folk nation. Akira then told the soldiers to escort the captured bandits back to the Elven capital for questioning and judgment. He said that from this point onward, he and his companions could travel alone, although the soldiers reminded him that their formal orders were to see him through all the way to the port. Akira managed to convince them that going back with the prisoners was the better choice. After parting ways, Akira, Amelia, and Knight continued on and eventually reached a port town. They boarded a ship bound for the Beast Folk continent. As the ship prepared to sail, Akira mentioned that once they landed, his next objective was straightforward: acquire better weapons, hit the local dungeon, and raise his level as much as possible. Amelia was surprised to hear that he still wanted to push his strength even further. Akira told her plainly that he would not rest until he had gathered every bit of power he needed to avenge Commander Saren. Knight added that the port city on the Beast Folk side had its own dungeon, so Akira would have plenty of opportunities to fight and grow stronger there. However, the journey over the sea would take several days, so he suggested they relax and enjoy the voyage for now. As the ship sailed away from the dock, Amelia got swept up in the romantic atmosphere and excitedly talked about recreating the iconic scene from Titanic. Standing at the bow with her arms spread wide, the wind blowing through her hair, and Akira holding her from behind. Akira, being emotionally oblivious and laser-focused on his goals, completely ignored her hints. Instead of indulging her fantasy, he pulled out a book the Elf King had given him as a farewell present and started reading. Amelia glared at the book as if it were her mortal enemy, quietly cursing her father in her heart for giving Akira something that distracted him from noticing her. Akira didn't even register her frustration and spent most of the journey with his nose buried in the pages. Eventually, the ship reached the Beast Folk continent. Their first destination was the port town of Dorga, or something similar, and as soon as they stepped onto the docks, Akira noticed something odd. All the heavy labor carrying cargo, cleaning, hauling supplies, seemed to be done exclusively by humans, while beast folk barked orders at them. He filed that observation away in the back of his mind and moved on, but the answer presented itself soon enough. 3 small-time beastmen thugs cornered him in the street. They told him to leave the elf girl behind and get lost if he knew what was good for him. Their tone and attitude made it very clear that in this country, humans were considered inferior. Akira walked calmly toward them, the beastmen underestimating him.
rushed in confidently, intending to teach him a lesson. Before they could land a blow, Akira flicked his hand and launched blobs of shadow at their faces, smothering their eyes in darkness and stealing their vision. While they stumbled around blinded and panicked, he and Amelia simply walked past them into the city. The further they went inside, the more Akira noticed how nervous people became when they caught sight of night. Humans and beast folk alike stiffened, whispered among themselves, or hurried away when they saw the black cat perched casually on his shoulder. Amelia finally asked Knight if he knew why everyone was so terrified of him. Knight answered that on this continent, people had a very real and bitter reason to fear black cats.
Later, the three of them checked into an inn and ordered a proper meal. After eating, Akira announced that he was going to rest. Amelia looked at the two large beds in their room and commented that one bed seemed more than enough for both of them. Her hint this time wasn't subtle at all. Akira was briefly stunned by how direct she was being. Seeing an opportunity, Knight decided to act as Amelia's wingman. He casually declared that he would be going out for a nighttime stroll and that they should feel free to do whatever they want while he was gone. Akira, caught in a flurry of mixed signals, said nothing. Amelia happily hurried off to take a shower, humming to herself and daydreaming. When she came out, hair still damp and cheeks slightly flushed, Akira was already lying on the bed with his eyes closed, breathing evenly. She thought he had fallen asleep from exhaustion and didn't want to disturb him. She leaned over, placed a gentle kiss on his cheek, and quietly slipped under the covers next to him. What she didn't know was that Akira was only pretending to be asleep. He kept his breathing steady, silently panicking under the blanket because he didn't want to deal with the situation, and because he still hadn't sorted out his feelings about getting close to her like that. The next morning, Knight returned just as Akira was waking up. Amelia sat up soon after, stretching sleepily. Knight told them both to get dressed quickly. He had invited a guest to meet them at the inn. That guest turned out to be a goth-looking beast folk blacksmith named Crow, dressed in dark clothes with an air of quiet menace. Knight had called him here specifically for Akira's sake. Crow said bluntly that he normally wouldn't have come, but he couldn't ignore a summons from the Nightmare of Adora. Amelia was immediately curious about that ominous title, but Akira already had an idea what it meant and chose not to pry. Akira introduced himself, and Crow immediately asked to see his weapon. Akira handed over his sword, which was chipped and worn from heavy use in multiple dungeons. Crow examined the blade carefully. Just from the pattern of the damage, he was able to tell which kind of dungeon Akira had been fighting in. Akira was impressed and asked if the sword could be repaired. Crow answered that it could, but only if Akira paid the proper price and brought the necessary raw material. Akira agreed without hesitation. Crow stared at him for a moment, easily reading his profession, and said that while he could forge the weapons, he felt Akira wasn't yet mentally prepared to handle such tools without destroying them, or himself. Amelia bristled at that remark, offended by Crow's blunt criticism. Akira, however, told her to calm down. He admitted that Crow was right. His mindset still needed work. Knight explained that Crow might seem harsh and arrogant, but he was once a member of a hero's party and had survived battles that would kill ordinary people instantly. Akira and Amelia were astonished to hear that, but Crow brushed off his past with a scowl. He handed Akira a list of the materials required as well as an estimate of the repair costs, then turned to leave. Knight told Akira that despite his attitude, Crow was the most skilled blacksmith on the entire continent. Akira believed him, but still wondered how he was supposed to gather that much money quickly. Knight's solution was simple: raid the dungeon, defeat monsters, and earn both cash and materials at the same time. Meanwhile, Amelia had been fidgeting, clearly troubled by something. She suddenly stood up and said she was going to talk to Crow. Akira asked Knight to accompany her while he stayed behind to gather information about the city and the dungeon. Amelia followed Crow to his workshop. He didn't bother with pleasantries and asked what she wanted from him. She brought up the previous heroes party, explaining that they had failed to defeat the demon lord, and only the hero and the beast folk companion had returned. Crow assumed she wanted to ask about the elf who had once been part of that party too, but Amelia shook her head. She said she wasn't here to talk about that. Instead, she bowed her head and asked him to train her.
She wanted to learn how to fight from someone who had survived the Demon Lord's castle. Crow rejected her immediately. He said he was done taking apprentices. When Amelia asked if he had taken disciples before, he replied that he'd had many, but none of them could handle his brutal training. They either broke down or ran away. Amelia insisted that she wouldn't run or break. She said she wanted to stay by Akira's side, but he was already far stronger than her. To stand beside him, she needed to grow, and she was willing to suffer for it. Crow remained unmoved. He turned to Knight and reminded him that the only reason he accepted this visit was to repair his master's equipment, nothing more. Knight agreed and told Amelia there was no way to force Crow. She wasn't his master, so he had no obligation to listen to her. However, Knight was clearly annoyed that Crow kept addressing him as the Nightmare of Adora. Crow replied that Knight had earned that title, whether he liked it or not. Amelia could no longer contain her curiosity. She asked what they were talking about. Knight sighed and explained. 100 years ago, the city of Adora had been the most prosperous place in the Beastfolk lands. When Beastfolk armies invaded demon territory, the Demon Lord ordered Knight to retaliate by attacking Adora. Knight's task was simply to inflict some damage and send a warning to the rulers. But when the battle began, his monstrous instincts went completely out of control. He went berserk. By the time he regained his senses, the magnificent city of Adora had been reduced to ruins. That one rampage turned him into a living nightmare in the memories of the survivors. From that day on, black cats became a symbol of terror across the continent, and Knight was forever branded the Nightmare of Adora. Akira heard the entire story through their telepathic bond and felt a heaviness in his chest. He understood now why people reacted so intensely whenever they saw Knight. Knight continued, admitting that after Adora's destruction, he had been so crushed by guilt that he no longer saw any reason to keep living. Meeting Akira had finally given him a reason to move forward instead of drowning in regret. Now he wanted to live for his new master's sake. Crow scoffed, but his expression softened slightly. He said he held no grudge against Knight personally. He took over the story and explained that sometime after the incident, he had gone to the memorial site in Adora to pay respects to the victims of that tragedy. To his surprise, Knight was there as well. They recognized each other immediately. Knight told Crow to take his revenge and strike him down if he wanted. But Crow didn't. He felt that killing Knight, who was no more than a weapon controlled by the Demon Lord at that time, wouldn't bring justice or peace. He also didn't seek revenge on the Demon Lord. His true hatred was reserved for someone else. Crow revealed that his younger sister had lived in Adora. She survived Knight's attack and devoted herself to rescuing the injured. While she was helping survivors, a Beastfolk noble named Graham arrived. He was in a hurry to leave the city, afraid Knight might return. Instead of carefully clearing the rubble, he decided to blast his way through the collapsed buildings, regardless of who might still be trapped underneath. Crow's sister tried to stop him, but he kicked her aside and proceeded to blow up everything in his path, killing everyone in the area, including her. Crow wanted revenge on Graham more than anything, but he stopped himself because he believed his kind-hearted sister would not have wanted him to become consumed by hatred. Amelia called him a coward. She said he was using his sister's memory as an excuse to avoid confronting his pain. She admitted that she herself used to run away from conflict, but Akira had shown her the importance of facing her problems head-on. Crow told her he'd heard enough of her self-righteous speech and ordered her to leave. Meanwhile, Akira arrived at the dungeon entrance in town and discovered that access was restricted by adventurer rank. He briefly considered sneaking in by concealing his presence, but before he could do anything, the entire building shook. A monster outbreak had begun. Huge tendrils of blue energy burst out from the dungeon, ripping through the structure and spilling onto the streets. Powerful monsters poured out of the openings, and the energy tendrils burned everyone they touched. Amelia, who had been on her way back from Crow's workshop, saw the chaos and immediately used her gravity magic to suppress as many of the rampaging energy streams as possible. She told Knight to help the civilians, and he darted off, rescuing people from falling debris and monster attacks. While Amelia was holding the energy down, a hooded boy emerged, riding atop a monstrous creature. He watched her magic with interest and remarked that her technique brought back some pleasant memories. Amelia recognized him at once. He was the same bastard who had once tricked Kilika into releasing a horde of orcs, leading to that tragic incident in the Elflands. The boy introduced himself properly as Aurum. He said that the Demon Lord had ordered him not to kill Amelia because her gravity magic was rare and valuable. However, he was allowed to injure her as much as he wanted, as long as she stayed alive. He played a strange flute, and the blue energy began to twist and coil around Amelia, forming a cage. She sensed the monsters lurking within the energy itself, and realized that she had no way to dodge or counter this particular trap. On the other side of the city, Akira was busy cutting down monsters one after another when Knight contacted him telepathically. He shouted that a demon had appeared, trapped Amelia, and dragged her back into the dungeon. Akira immediately raced toward the dungeon entrance, but there were too many monsters between him and the doorway. The blue energy still blocked large parts of the street, making it even harder to advance. He grabbed a sword from a fallen adventurer and hacked through the monsters as fast as he could, but he quickly realized that this method was too slow. Amelia was getting farther away with every passing second. Just then, Knight descended from the sky, panting, and apologized for failing to protect Amelia. Akira told him that assigning blame could wait. What mattered now was getting her back. He ordered Knight to climb higher and get clear of what was about to happen. Knight shot upward without question. Akira took a deep breath, then unleashed his shadow magic at full power. A tide of blackness surged out from beneath his feet, devouring monsters, blue energy, and twisted magic alike. He no longer tried to hold anything back. As the darkness spread, Akira could feel his own rage boiling inside him. He realized, with a shock, that Amelia had become incredibly important to him. Important enough that losing her made his emotions spiral out of control. He vowed that he would save her, no matter what he had to sacrifice. The shadow finally finished devouring every enemy and energy wave in its reach. The moment it was done, the backlash hit him. Akira's vision blurred, his body trembled, and he collapsed onto the shattered street, completely drained of strength after using too much power at once. Knight, who had been watching everything from above, saw his master fall and immediately dove back down toward him.
Akira collapses and Knight rushes to his side in a panic. He has no idea how to help until a calm mechanical voice echoes in his head, the system that serves Akira. It explains that Akira has pushed his mana far beyond his body's limit, so an automatic recovery function of his shadow magic is activating. Shadows spill out around Akira, wrapping him in a dark cocoon. His body begins to glow faintly as the stored mana in the shadows starts repairing the damage. Knight can only sit and watch, stunned. He doesn't understand what he's seeing, but one thing is clear. Without this mysterious power, Akira would already be dead. After an entire day, Akira suddenly wakes up with a sharp gasp, disoriented. He sits up and asks Knight where they are. Knight explains that he carried him back to Crow's house after he passed out. Seeing the sunset, Akira guesses he's been out for a few hours, but Knight corrects him. It's been 1 day and 5 hours. For someone who burned through that much mana, it's a miracle he's alive. Knight tells him he only survived because the shadow magic activated on its own and healed him. If it hadn't, his body would have given up. Akira wonders what this shadow magic even is, but he doesn't dwell on it. He says he'll figure it out later. They have something more urgent to deal with. He gets up, heads downstairs, and finds Crow waiting in the workshop. Akira thanks him for the bed and jokingly tells him to add it to his tab. Crow coldly asks where he thinks he's going in that condition. Akira answers immediately. He has to rescue Amelia, and every second counts. Crow points out it's already been more than a day since she was taken. She might already be on the demon continent. Akira grits his teeth and says that if she is, he'll break into the demon lord's castle himself. Crow sighs and tells him to calm down, questioning how someone calm can forget something as basic as their weapons. Akira snaps that he doesn't even have weapons right now. They're still being repaired. Crow just nods at the table. Akira turns and sees his old sword reforged into 2 sleek short daggers, perfect for an assassin. Crow explains that he modified them himself and fronted the costs because it was an emergency. Akira can pay him back later. Akira tests the daggers and sincerely thanks him. Crow then tosses him a ring, a simple band engraved with strange words. He says it was forged by either the second or third hero. The inscription reads, "I will lead you everywhere." Crow is surprised when Akira reads it easily, and Akira explains that it's written in the language of his original world. When Akira asks what it does, Crow says the ring helps its wearer find whatever they're looking for. That's all Akira needs. He slips the ring on, activates it, and it immediately emits a sharp beam of light pointing straight toward the dungeon. Crow notes that this means the demons haven't taken Amelia to the demon realm yet. Akira straps on his gear, holsters his daggers, and jumps onto Knight's back. As they race toward the dungeon, Knight quietly asks him not to throw his life away like before. Akira admits he was reckless, and that if he had died, Knight would have died too. Knight says he doesn't care about himself. He just doesn't want Akira hurt like that again. Meanwhile, deep in the dungeon, Amelia is exhausted, wounded, and chained. The demon Aurum, however, is in a playful mood, talking to her like they're just chatting. He explains that demons have a spell to control monsters, and he wanted to test how it affects other races. He sends a flying centipede toward Amelia and tells her that thanks to her, he discovered something new. His spell can't control elves, but it can completely paralyze them. Amelia forces herself to ask why he's keeping her here, instead of taking her straight to the demon lord. Aurum explains that only second-grade demons and above can use teleportation magic, and he's just a third-grade demon, so all he can do is wait for his superior to arrive and teleport them to the demon continent. He doesn't know when his boss will come, but he's in no hurry. He's enjoying using her as an experiment and conversation partner. He tells her to ask whatever she wants, even if Akira shows up. He's sure Akira won't be able to defeat him. Still, he promises not to damage her too much. The Demon Lord wants her in perfect condition. At the same time, Akira follows the glowing direction of the ring, which keeps pointing toward the dungeon. As he urges Knight to go faster, a hooded wizard suddenly blocks their path, asking him to hear her out. He recognizes her immediately as the stalker who had been tailing them before. When she asks him to take her along to rescue Amelia, Akira grabs her by the collar, eyes cold, and demands to know how she knows about Amelia. He warns her that if he senses even a little danger from her, he'll kill her on the spot. The girl hurriedly explains that she has a skill called Scent Tracker, which lets her follow people by their faint scent. She followed Amelia's scent all the way to the dungeon, where it suddenly vanished, then followed Akira instead, knowing he'd head there too. She insists she wants to help save Amelia. Knight confirms she's telling the truth. Akira lets her go, but keeps a close eye on her and asks why she's so desperate to come. She pulls back her hood and introduces herself as Leah, the first princess of the Beastfolk nation of Uruk. She explains that she received intel that the Demon Lord was after Amelia, so she rushed out to warn them. But she knew Akira wouldn't trust a random stranger claiming to know demon secrets, so she decided to shadow him until the demons moved. Akira still isn't fully convinced, so he activates his world eye and checks her status. It confirms she's being honest. He then asks about her spirit barrier skill. Leah panics when he names it, demanding to know how he even knows about her abilities. But Akira just tells her to answer. She explains that normal barriers are fixed in place, but her spirit barrier is placed on moving targets, even living beings. When he asks if she can cast it on people, she says yes, and insists her ability will be crucial for the rescue. She then reveals that the Demon Lord is targeting Amelia's resurrection magic. They can't let him obtain it. Akira is shocked and immediately jumps back onto Knight, telling Leah to ride with them. Knight asks if he's really sure about trusting her, but Akira says they don't have a choice. They need her barrier. Down in the dungeon, Aurum gives Amelia the same information. She doesn't understand why the Demon Lord wants resurrection magic when demons already live long and are hard to kill. Aurum agrees it's not as overpowered as people think. It can't revive someone who's been dead too long and has a long cooldown. When she asks how he knows so much, he just smirks and says he just does. Then he cruelly tells her that when he kills Akira, she won't be able to save him anyway. She already used the spell on herself. He says he's excited to see her cry and hopes her tears are even more pathetic than Kilika's when Liam died. Meanwhile, Akira keeps flying toward the dungeon and suddenly realizes why Leah's face looks familiar.
He remembers seeing her when he was first summoned. He asks her to explain. Leah tells him she was once a normal village girl living peacefully until a huge black slime appeared and devoured her village, including her family. She believes it wasn't a natural monster, but something altered with forbidden magic and released as a test. Since then, her only goal has been to find out who was behind it. Akira realizes that the slime that swallowed Amelia must be the same one. Leah continues. She was the only survivor. Because of her rare skills, the Beastfolk royal family adopted her as a princess. She used that position to investigate and discovered her village's destruction was connected to the human kingdom that summoned Akira and his classmates. She also found out that many humans and Beastfolk had gone missing over the years and were used as sacrifices for the summoning ritual. She's sure her family was among those offered up to summon the hero. That's why she wanted to see him with her own eyes. Akira tells her he's one of those summoned heroes. Leah says she doesn't blame him personally. Her hatred is for the king and princess who orchestrated it. Akira admits he has his own reasons to hate them and never believed they were summoning heroes just to protect the world. Knight backs him up, explaining that demons haven't launched a major invasion in over a century. People just cling to the old idea that demons are pure evil. Soon, they reach the dungeon entrance. Inside, Knight tells Akira they can't just rush down to Amelia. The place follows rules set by the first demon lord. To clear each floor, you must defeat a certain number of monsters. There's no skipping floors and no cheat. Akira clicks his tongue and says that'll take too long, deciding to use shadow magic to speed things up. Knight warns that he'll exhaust himself before reaching Aurum. Akira says they don't have much choice, but Knight offers another plan. He'll handle the weaker monsters while Akira conserves energy. The problem is that if Knight fights too much, he fears he'll lose control and go berserk. Even Akira might be at risk. Akira promises he'll keep Knight grounded and asks him to trust him. Knight transforms into his terrifying three-headed form and charges through the dungeon. Flames pour from his mouth as he wipes out monster after monster. As he fights, he starts crashing into walls and losing control. Akira shouts at him to focus. Hearing his voice, Knight feels like he's floating in a calm sea instead of drowning in rage. Akira keeps talking, calling his name, guiding him, even cracking jokes to keep Knight's mind clear. Knight asks him not to stop talking. As long as he hears Akira, he can stay in control. As they carve downward through the dungeon, Akira asks why other races still hate demons so intensely. Knight explains it began with the first demon lord, who was pushed to the barren demon continent and retaliated by attacking the other nations. He became the symbol of ultimate evil, and stories spread that only a hero could stop him. In reality, most later demon lords didn't want war, but a few generations ago, some idiot trying to gain fame killed the demon lord's wife. That demon lord, who had been gentle and family-loving, snapped and became a catastrophe. Old hatred was revived. Akira sympathizes with him, but says that if the current demon lord really ordered Amelia's kidnapping, he won't forgive him. Knight agrees, but reminds Akira that not all demons are the same. Some are cruel, others truly want peace. Akira says he'll remember that and judge them individually. Eventually, they reach the chamber where Amelia is imprisoned. The ring's light goes wild, confirming they're in the right place. Akira steps inside and immediately tells Aurum he's taking Amelia back. He orders Leah to put her spirit barrier on Amelia. Knight returns to his normal form, exhausted. Aurum looks at him, impressed that the demon lord's right hand delivered Akira so quickly. Knight ignores him and apologizes to Akira. He can't help in this fight. Amelia also apologizes for dragging Akira into danger. Akira brushes it off and tells them both to relax. He promises he won't let anyone take Amelia. Then he draws his twin daggers. Aurum grins and summons his weapons, confidently claiming Akira will lose both the battle and his life. Knight points points out that the Demon Lord ordered them to bring Akira alive, but Orym explains that his orders were only to bring Amelia back in perfect condition. If Akira interferes, he's allowed to kill him. While Orym is still talking, Akira suddenly disappears from sight and reappears behind him, striking without warning. Orym easily blocks the attack and counterattacks with his spear, which stretches unnaturally and slices Akira's leg. Akira keeps attacking, but no matter how hard he pushes, he can't break through Orym's defense. The demon toys with him, landing hit after hit and treating the battle like a game. Eventually, he gets bored and decides to end it. Akira insists he'll be the one to finish things and activates his shadow magic. Darkness spreads along the floor, flowing toward the places where his blood has fallen. Using a new technique, he calls forth shadow beasts from his blood, wolves made of living darkness. Everyone is stunned. Orym struggles as the shadow wolves attack from all directions. While he's distracted, Akira rushes in and slashes his arm and leg, forcing him to drop his weapon, but Akira is near his limit. He's breathing heavily, barely standing. Orym, still not done, raises his eerie flute and starts playing. Monsters under his control gather and charge up a massive beam aimed at Akira. With his shadow magic on cooldown, Akira has no way to defend himself. Just as the beam fires, Leah throws everything she has into a gigantic spirit barrier around him. The barrier absorbs the blast, and when the monsters try to rush in, it reflects their attacks back, blowing their heads off. Leah collapses from exhaustion. Amelia staggers over to Akira and says she can move again now that Orym's weakened. She hides behind him, while Orym laughs bitterly at his failure. Akira points a dagger at Orym's throat, but hesitates. Orym taunts him for being an assassin who can't even kill a helpless enemy. Akira falters. It's easier to kill monsters than someone who looks human. Before he can decide, the air twists, space distorts, and someone teleports into the room. Orym's superior has arrived, a second-grade demon, radiating crushing pressure. He looks down at Orym with cold disappointment. Akira, Amelia, Knight, and Leah all feel the weight of his presence and understand one terrifying thing: they're completely outmatched. And that's where this episode ends.
Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thinking